something terrible is going to happen. Well, we assume terrible, but Will is like,
yes.
I'm going to betray my family, and they're going to know it in 3 days.
Yeah, so that even more evidence for something terrible.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Look at this cake you gave us. This is terrible.
You took those eggs. You made a delicious chocolate cake.
Ugh.
Damn you. And I thought you were hooded justice the whole time.
Yes.
You were just a baker. You opened my bakery for me.
Terrible.
You underwrit my bakery. Okay. Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt, the Dork Lords. We're here talking about Watchmen. Season 1, Episode 4. If you don't like my story, write your own.
Yes, not at all something Damon Lindelof might say.
That's right. That's right. It's like his mantra for the last decade, essentially. This episode, we meet Lady True.
Yes.
Who I think, if I had to put money on it, is probably your ultimate villain for this season. If I had to guess. I mean, Ozymandias is obviously out there somewhere, but I have a feeling.
He is.
I think he might be at odds with her at the moment. I kind of feel like she might be your biggest bad at the moment.
All right.
She is a trillionaire, as she corrects.
Yes, she does.
They're like, oh, you're a billionaire.
No, trillionaire, which
Thank you.
I don't think we've had at all.
I worked very hard to get that tr in front of my name.
Yeah. So yes, in this, I don't know what Biden or Bernie or Warren are doing in this world, but you can have trillionaires.
Apparently so. Yes, in this reality. So we open with actually Lady True. We meet her making an offer to a family.
Yes.
One thing we see a lot of in this episode in particular are eggs, seeds. Reproduction, generally speaking, is a theme.
Yes.
The heritage.
Sure.
They're talking about legacy.
Yep,
All those things keep getting mentioned in various ways throughout this episode. One way we see it right off the bat is that there's this couple. They live out in the country. The woman, I think, sells eggs at a roadside stand or something. And then on her way back, she trips and she breaks the eggs on her porch. We then find out that she can't have kids. Maybe there's like a little see her eggs. I don't know. It's a weird metaphor. But it's there.
Yes, it's there.
So Lady True shows up in the middle of the night and she's got a big hourglass.
Yes.
Well, she's like the Wicked Witch of the
West.
West.
Exactly.
Like, does she really need an hourglass?
Yeah.
But she's like, you have 3 minutes. Like, my time is valuable. I don't come out much, if ever. They know about the Millennium Clock. They're like, oh, that Millennium Clock. She's like, yeah, I don't come out much. But when I do, it's important. You right now are the most important people in the world. 3 minutes. And I want to buy your place. And they're like, yeah, it's not for sale. She's like, I get it. You got a legacy. You want this something. But, legacy isn't about land.
Right.
You guys, I know for a fact, tried to have kids. Couldn't have kids. Well, you can. And I already made that kid for you. So here's your kid. I gave it $5 million.
Well, then she plays around a little bit. Like, hey.
That's where we see the villain come in.
Yeah, it was like, hey, if you don't want this, I'll just kill it.
Yeah. And they're like,
no, kidding.
Like,
I'll give it to somebody else.
Very awkward laugh.
Maybe.
Of course, I was only joking when I said exactly what I meant. So the people would sign on the dotted line just in time for that 3 minutes. And then this big meteor falls to the ground because she not only the house, she bought the 40 acres around the house. So she just purchased the land where the meteor hit, which I assume was her intent all along. She knew somehow that meteor was about to land.
Right.
And so she's like, I need to get this land fast. Cut! Ah! And so then when they asked, like, what was that? She's like, it's mine. So in other words, she didn't say it quite that way, but it's mine. So I'm going to guess that, there's a lot of parts in this show that are being shown not to be in chronological order.
Right.
We can talk about where these things are at. But I think this is one of the things that's not happening in the order of the show in terms of, for instance, we don't see Sister Knight go like, "Oh, that meteor last night. Well, that was weird."
Right.
Well, I think this meteor hitting either happens later or earlier. I can't tell which.
Right.
My initial instinct was this was what happens later. Perhaps that meteor is Ozymandias coming back to Earth, and she knew it because if she's like, say, the game warden, she would have known when he left. If he's off somewhere, let's say he's on the moon or something, she'd be like, "Oh, he left. Oh, that means he's going to be landing in blah 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 seconds. I better
quick, make a baby.
Here, give me go buy a giant time turner, and I need to go." And then okay, so that's my working theory, but it could be way wrong. But for some reason, she knew there's a meteor about to crash this property.
She did know that.
I'm going to do whatever it takes.
And if you think about it, though, that should give her more than a day's notice.
Right. Yeah. No. Agreed. It seemed like she was, or 3. She was really cutting it close. I mean, she's like,
exactly.
Whatever. What if they hadn't been home? Like, let's go watch a movie. Oh, son, go to the movies. Go to the movies. Damn it! All these eggs on the ground. Oh, they're messy. So we've got her. We go back to Sister Knight. She breaks into the Heritage Center, whatever that is, late at night. She gets the call that there's some more information about Will. So she just goes over to the Heritage Center, and it's like phones it in like, "Hey, I heard there was a break-in.
Yes.
If you hear an alarm, it's just me."
Yeah.
It's just me. And then she goes in by herself, and she takes an acorn. They have this whole thing where they're like, "Oh, you take an acorn, you put it in the little thing, it grows this holographic tree." You were talking about in a world where they don't have the internet.
Yes.
They've got this holographic tree that shows like real-time data of the internet. Oh yeah, even later when we see, I don't know if it's a one-to-one correlation, but it seems like when we see Looking Glass, he's got a dark room because I guess they don't have digital pictures perhaps in this world. I don't know for a fact. But it's just like, what is the technology of this world? It's weird. Anyway, so she does the tree.
Well, the only thing she learned from the tree was that there were 3 of the people that were there, and they're all dead.
And they're all dead in the riots. And then she says, "You didn't die, you disappeared, and then you came back 100 years later, and to remind me of my past. Great, you did it. Now get out of my life."
Yes.
And the second she says that, we hear this thump, light shake. Her car has been returned to her outside.
Laurie was there too, and so she's laughing.
Right, because she thinks it's somehow connected perhaps to Dr. Manhattan. We
don't know that. Yeah, I think it's more just like, this is funny that this happened. Because I'm the comedian. I laugh. I'm comedian too.
Comedian. We hear that. I'll tell them about that. The PDpedia page references that. But yes, so there we have Laurie and Sister Knight in the same location. Laurie was there to use the giant bat phone, the phone that talked to Dr. Manhattan, and
the dildo
Sister Knight
phone
was there to talk to or to go into the Heritage Center. It happened to be the same place. Sister Knight's car is returned to her in a much worse condition. And in the glove compartment is a bottle of pills.
Wow.
The bottle of pills, we find out, were left there by Will. We'll just flash forward here a little bit because we know later that Will is staying with Lady True.
Yes.
He can also walk.
Yes.
Whether he always could walk or whether because of some kind of maybe pills he's taking or because she does have biomedical experience, maybe something very recently she helped him to walk. I'm not sure which. Yeah. I think the implication is he could always walk and he's just been faking it, but I don't know.
Yeah, then it becomes a question of why.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, look, I'm just a defenseless old man.
Yeah, it's like, either that or it's just some weird homage to Lost or something.
Oh, good call. I didn't think about that. But the fact that he was a cop in New York in the 40s definitely keeps in line with Hooded Justice. Hooded Justice was also running around New York in the 40s. So if he was actually Hooded Justice, it would match up and make sense. Just to say, throw that out there. Juggle. But Will has left these pills, and obviously Lady True is not pleased about it. She's like, you could just tell him who you are, and, just seemed she was a little annoyed that Will had done this with the pill thing at the end of the episode.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I don't know. I didn't read it annoyance so much, but okay.
Okay.
I mean, she was curious about it, and that's when he, started to question her if she in fact was doing the same thing.
Right.
And
with her daughter,
yes,
which
and not telling her the full story.
Yes. We learn in that same conversation, which is at the end of the episode, that in 3 days, something terrible is going to happen. Well, we assume terrible, but Will is like,
yes.
I'm going to betray my family, and they're going to know it in 3 days.
Yeah, so that even more evidence for something terrible.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Look at this cake you gave us. This is terrible.
You took those eggs. You made a delicious chocolate cake. Damn you. And I thought you were hooded justice the whole time.
Yes.
You were just a baker. You opened my bakery for me.
Terrible.
You underwritten my bakery. Okay. So we see there's a timeline. There's that he even says tick tock, tick tock. We get the ticking clock heading towards something that's happening in a few days. Also remember, from the episode 1, wasn't it, where the cavalry are like taking watch parts and combining something. They had something going on.
No.
So I don't know if they're connected at all, or if they're on a timeline or what. But any case, okay. Timeline. So the title of this episode, If You Don't Like My Story, Write Your Own, actually comes from a book called Things Fall Apart. That particular book is the one that's being read by Calvin, Sister Knight's husband, in this episode. The protagonist of that story is a wrestling champion in Nigeria, and he hangs himself at the end of the book, much like Angela says when she gives away the end. Oh, he hangs himself at the end. So obviously we've got a situation here where Judd is found hanging in the first episode of this show. So perhaps there's some connections here. I'm not sure where it all fits in, but there is a certain Easter egg there. From the title to Things Fall Apart to people being hanged. We are introduced to True's daughter.
Yes.
Bian, who wakes up at one point she has a dream.
Yep, a nightmare, she says.
I had a nightmare, Mommy.
Yep.
I actually went back and watched it just to make sure. I was looking to see if she was saying that she was a kid in the nightmare, and she didn't. She did not say, like, I was a child and I saw a thing. Okay. She's just like, they were burning my village, and then they forced me to walk, and my feet still hurt. And Lady True's like, good. Yes. Because she's a great mom. And the little kid says, will you walk me back to bed? No.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she's best mom ever.
Yeah, best mom ever. So, I think...
Yes.
I think, because there's another bit there where she says, she being Lady True, says, hey, my mom told me that I should never leave Vietnam. So I found a loophole, and I brought Vietnam to me.
Yep.
Going back to that heritage, the legacy.
Sure, yeah, sure.
But I think, here's this, we know there are clones. We've seen them on Ozymandias' side of things. And we know she's way into biomedical research.
Sure.
I think it's possible.
Yes.
Maybe even more than just like barely possible. Like maybe 30% possible.
That she's gonna die?
What? There's probably more than that. But, I think Bian might be a clone of her mom. She's brought her mom back.
A clone of Lady True's mom.
Correct.
Okay.
And she's found a way. The reason she was like so interested and said good about the nightmares is she's found a way to actually give people memories of their clone. So in other words, it's not just, I'm a new version of your mom, but I have no memory of that and it doesn't matter.
Right.
She's found a way to like actually give her mom's memories to this daughter of hers. And so the fact that her feet hurt, are like, aha, good, it's working. You will be exactly like my mom, I think.
Her feet always hurt.
Her feet always hurt from water. I assume that was a thing that happened in the Vietnam War.
Right. I was thinking that it was like that scene that you've always seen where the naked girl is walking down the road that the American soldiers are forcing them down. I guess presumably because of napalm that was dropped or whatever, but forcing them to walk down the road. That's what the image that I had. So
well, it would make sense that there would be, we're talking. She was born. If we figure she's in her 40s or so, she would have been. She being Lady True would have been born around the time of the Vietnam War.
Yes, right.
So her mom would have been an adult,
right,
being forced to march or something at some point.
Yeah.
So it kind of puts in that context. It is interesting.
And what I'm assuming is that it's all part of sort of chickens coming home to roost.
Eggs.
Yes. Theme, sort of like with Will Reeves and the events of, just the racism in America, and then also the imperial nature of what America was doing in Vietnam, and then winning. So, in my mind, it's developing a sort of a theory about okay, this is how we're going to get back, at what has happened to us.
You're trying to think why Will is aligned with Lady True.
Yes.
In other words.
Yes.
Like they have some kind of he's willing to betray his family because there's something else that he thinks is better.
Because it was like his granddaughter was born in Vietnam, and then and
right.
Now
that's an important point. I think that Sister Night was born in Vietnam. Her parents were there, lived there or whatever.
Right, right.
I think there's a connection there.
But being a part of the occupying force or whatever, and then. When he wants to rebel against all that, I assume I assume.
Do we know what the plan is? Do you have a theory onto what this thing in 3 days will be?
No, I don't.
What are those pills, for instance?
Right.
So.
Yeah, he said they're trying to help him remember, but I wonder what that really is about.
So. Here's the thought. So we see beyond the daughter, when she wakes up from the nightmare, she pulls the IV out.
Right.
I'm thinking maybe that IV, let's assume for a second that maybe those memories she's having are actual implanted memories from the mom.
Sure.
That maybe those pills are in a similar way. Like they help your memory. They help you take in, I don't know, memories of another, of your clone or something.
Oh. Okay, that makes me wonder if not maybe the reason why he couldn't walk initially was that he was, he's sort of coming into his body or whatever. The way that the caretakers are, the clones of Ozymandias were initially sort of...
Yeah, which by the way, woo, that is... when he's in the big pond full of fetuses and he's like, which one? Nope. These will be great. He's like, that's a very odd scene.
Yes, it is.
Then you feel like he has to do this all the time. Like he's got to go to the pond, get some new ones.
Yep.
They can't talk for a while. He gives them instructions. He dresses them. He puts them through the centrifuge. And then, so, yes, agree. Maybe there's you're right, a lag time there or something like that.
Yeah, so maybe initially he couldn't do, so he had to do that. But then by now he's, and he's getting back his memories. So that's what the whole point of taking the pills are like, okay, I can be in this new body, but I'm taking these pills. Because you
think he would have maybe picked a younger body to be in, but maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe not.
Or maybe he's making a clone. I mean, one weird thought I had was...
That's weird.
Okay, this goes to Calvin. This is Sister Night's husband.
Yes.
Okay. Two things in this episode kind of were like, okay. No, we'll stick a pin in it for later. Mm-hmm. One of them was when... we learned that Laurie Blake went and talked to Calvin.
Yes.
And Sister Night's like, hey, what the hell? You talked to this cop? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I told her everything. You find out that Calvin knows everything.
Right.
But he's like, I didn't say that. I lied. And I don't like lying.
Yeah.
Just one kind of interesting thing there. She's like, yeah, I know. Then she says, did you tell her about the accident? And he's like, nope, didn't come up. She's like, oh, good. All right, so there's that. That's a
Right.
really
Yeah, it's
interesting
weird.
thing.
Yeah.
Then there's the bit where he's talking to the kids, and they're like, "Is Uncle Judd in heaven?" He's like,
Yes.
"No, Uncle Judd's not in heaven. He
Right.
was from nowhere, then he was alive, and he went back to nowhere."
Right.
So maybe take those two things in mind.
This is okay.
Perhaps
Yeah.
the whatever this accident was
Sure.
killed him. Like he died. He went to nowhere.
Okay.
He knows that there is no afterlife because
Okay.
he experienced it.
All right.
And then through some kind of, maybe he's a clone, maybe he brought back to some kind of weird biomedical stuff, but in other words, maybe the version of him that we see is a version that was created after he actually died. And so that's why he is confident in his ability, his knowledge of like, there's what you're talking about. Nope.
Right. I mean, point of fact, if you're, presumably what you're getting out of a pill are the memories of from when you were alive. So it's like maybe when he's dead and they can somehow copy the mind or whatever. But in theory, that shouldn't give you the information about what happens after you die.
Right.
But
right.
whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that's just
certainly
a weird theory there that probably is not true. But it was just the accident is obviously important.
I think it's quite possible. Although then that would give her. I mean, I feel like we haven't learned that much about that type of technology being used. But,
Right. How is she so up on it if that's the case? Because she knows. She being Sister Knight knows. Like, oh, did you tell me that? Like, so she's aware of what happened, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And knows that it's not a good thing to talk about.
Right.
So anyway, interesting. Let's talk real fast about the PDpedia information we learned from this week. So there's that website that HBO puts out. It's told theoretically from the files of Petey, the little sidekick that hangs around Laurie Blake all the time.
Yeah.
In this case, what we see is a transcript from 1995. This is where Laurie Blake was captured, more or less, by the FBI with their vigilante squad and kind of given the ultimatum of like, hey, you want to stop being a vigilante or go to jail? She and Night Owl had gotten captured. Night Owl chose, nope, send me to jail then because I'm not going to stop being a vigilante. Obviously, Laurie Blake did not make that decision.
No, she didn't.
But what's interesting is there's a cool, the reason the event that got them captured was they stopped the Oklahoma City bombing. So again, it's another Oklahoma reference here, but in fact, she asks in this transcript, is he dead? And they're like, yeah. So they killed Timothy McVeigh and stopped the Oklahoma City bombing. And we find out that she was going now by the name of the comedienne, not Silk Spectre at this time, which plays into the fact that her last name is Blake, so she's going off her dad's name.
Right.
So she was the comedienne. We find out that Night Owl was funding their projects, their private enterprise, by selling his tech to law enforcement. Hence, that owl ship we see in episode 1, it's based on his tech that he sold to law enforcement. His company that he sold it with was called Merlin Corp. So if you see that name come up at some point.
Also the glasses.
Yes. And we find out that Night Owl and the comedian had split up because he wanted kids. She didn't. Again, that heritage legacy idea coming up. And he, as a parting, actually, they'd come together for one last job, essentially. One last time before retirement. Oh, I got captured. But the one last thing was killing Timothy McVeigh, apparently. So, but they had split up, and kind of as a parting jab at her, because he always thought, oh, you're still holding the candle for Dr. Manhattan. Here's his penis. And so the phallus that she's been carrying around in the briefcase was actually made by Night Owl as an FU, to their relationship. And we see also in the PDpedia they've got a schematic of it. So it's Night Owl's schematic of Dr.
Now I haven't read this. Is that how she characterizes it as an FU, or you just sort of?
She said as a literal FU. So yes. So anyway, just some interesting backstory there to their relationship and how she was, and then actually, and very important, at the very end of this interrogation, where it looks like she might get put into jail as well or something, she says, hey, if you don't play ball with me, if you don't work with me here, I just tell your bosses that I know what really happened on 11/2. 11/2 is when the squid attack hit New York. So she's basically threatening them. They'll be like, I'll tell what really happened. And then cut 2 years later, she's higher up in the FBI. Yeah. So I think she exploited
and she's been pretty diligent, so yeah, she's earned her place.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's that side of things. Okay, so Looking Glass.
Yes.
We see Sister Night goes to Looking Glass to have him analyze what's in these pills. I assume then we'll figure out what's in those pills.
Oh yeah.
In the near future. He lives in a bunker.
Yes.
He's got this, as I mentioned, a dark room where he's been taking pictures of the various squid rainfall things. Looks like next episode is going to show more about him and his backstory. I've seen some theories online, which I think are good ones, based on trailers we've seen. There's a trailer image where we see like a fun house and a kid standing in front of a street full of dead folks. The theory is that is Looking Glass as a kid. That he was a kid in New York when the squid attack hit. And the fact that he was in this fun house, Looking Glass, the mirrors, probably has something to do with the costume he chose as a result of it. But he's a big conspiracy theorist, obviously.
Okay.
And I thought this was interesting. This is a kind of a tie into Lindelof with The Leftovers. You've got this thing. In the case of Leftovers, it was some percentage of the humanity had disappeared.
Right.
In the case of this, a giant squid suddenly showed up out of nowhere and killed everybody.
Okay.
And so in the years that follow, you have people trying to make sense of it.
Sure.
Trying to find a pattern. And so he has been like, all these photographs, and he's trying to figure out, and there's dimensions and the thing. And so because he was so traumatized by that event, he's been trying to make sense of it ever since, I think. Which I think is a kind of a cool backstory.
Well, if you don't like his story, then you should write your own.
Right. So it was interesting though, like she shows up, gives the pills, then she's like, hey, here's this Klan outfit. Yes. So hang on to this.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, I don't know, it's just that's a pretty big ask to be like, hi, guy who might be investigated at some point in this whole process. Why don't you hang on to these Klan robes? All right, fine.
Seems like a person who,
she trusts
only reluctantly lets people into his bunker.
Yes, and she's one of them.
So if someone else was coming, it might be the worst. That might not be the worst thing that gets found out.
Good point. He does say, "Oh, these robes look old school," and reminded us something we mentioned last week, based on the Peteypedia, that Judd's grandfather was in law enforcement. And so perhaps this very old Klan robe with a badge on it might be the grandfather's.
Yeah,
is
could
the
be.
Implication. So he kind of threw that out there. I gotta mention Lube Man in terms of, like, this is probably the funniest. I think it's deliberately funny, but it's the funniest scene in this episode for sure. Maybe in the series so far. So. Sister Night is disposing of that wheelchair and stuff in a duffel bag. She throws it into a passing train.
Yes.
Turns around. There's this dude dressed up all in silver.
Yes.
And she's like, she starts chasing him. He's running away. The only thing he's got on his outfit, his utility belt, if you call it that, is a belt with two ketchup dispensers on it. He vinegar and oils himself. Makes a salad, and then uses that to slide into the sewer at full speed, basically. Like, whoop. So it's just such a ridiculous...
Yes, it is.
It's not even a power, right?
No.
I mean, like, I'm going to carry some oil so that if I'm ever chased, I'll try to find the nearest sewer, hope that it's the design that'll actually fit my body. I mean, I can imagine there could be a sewer grate or something, or you can't get through, or I don't know. It just seems like he's awfully like, no, I know that He probably knows where every sewer is.
I would think.
5 blocks and then 2 to the left. If I keep
Yeah.
running, I'll get to that sewer that I can go, whoop. And then what? Like he's in the sewer then?
Yes. It's a good thing he greased himself up, Maybe that'll help keep stuff off of him.
Yeah. So we don't know what he was doing, except
we don't.
he's spying, looks like, on Sister Night, keeping an eye on her.
Yes.
My best thought theory is that it's Petey. He looks around the right size. He's a tall, skinny dude. He's obviously very much taken with the costumed hero thing. I could imagine that he might try to get his own persona. He's also pretty geeky. He might think like, a guy who can...
Okay.
And he could have been sent to keep tabs on her by Blake, perhaps.
I guess.
Anyway, just that makes the most sense to me in the moment.
Yeah. I'm not confident that we've met this person.
Okay.
So.
All right. Lube Man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the rest of Ozymandias. So.
Oh yes.
Ozymandias raises up some new followers, his new clones.
Yes.
We do see that there's a birthday cake with 4 candles.
We do.
And so again, and we also find out that we'll take him at his word. It's been years.
Yes.
Each one is a year. So that also means this is not taking place in current time with what's happening. Right? I mean, what we've seen of him so far has taken place over the course of 4 years.
Yeah.
As opposed to what we've seen with Sister Night, which has taken place over the course of a couple of days.
Right. Okay.
So in other words, what we're seeing is something that I think is earlier in time.
Right.
As he struggles to get out of whatever this... He mentions it's a paradise, but it's also a prison.
Right.
And so we also see that he went nuts and killed off a whole bunch of clones.
Yes.
And now he's using them as disposable weight tests to catapult.
Yes.
And we see that he catapults them into the sky, and at some point they hit like a barrier and they disappear.
Right.
So it's not just that they go off into space and then float. They go outside of something and they disappear.
Right.
So I think there is some kind of a cloaking dome. Once you get outside the dome, you can't see what's outside. And if you're standing outside the dome, you probably can't see inside.
Maybe so.
Is my guess. And so he's trying to maybe figure out the right angle of look, I can consistently shoot them into that spot to get them outside of the dome. My best guess is we know that Lady True purchased or took over for Veidt after he left.
Yes.
She's got this statue of him in the garden.
Right.
Which also, interesting point there. I didn't notice it at first, but then I thought about it. I went back and watched. And oh yeah. So, Laurie Blake's insulting the statue. Why'd you choose the old statue?
Yes.
She's like, we venerate our elders in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And she said, well, he just looks like crap, or he looks old or something like that. And she says, he is old.
Ah.
Now, everyone thinks, because there was a big article that he's dead.
That's true. That's true. There,
she's kind of right there saying, nope.
That's true. You're right.
No, I know he's alive.
Right.
So I think as part of his retirement, he set up what he thought would be this idyllic thing to get away. And maybe it's on the moon, maybe it's somewhere, but it's isolated. And it was his own little dream area, my fantasy island. And he goes off to it, but somehow when he goes there, she changes the rules or something and it traps him there. But so hence when he says, this is my paradise, but it's also my prison. I feel like this was originally his intent to escape from humanity because they might find out about the squid attack. And then, oh shit, now I can't get out.
Well, that's the length of time that he attributes, right? That doesn't exactly match up, right, to the when he was found, assumed dead.
True at the moment,
right?
Although this is still the fourth year,
that suggests.
Oh, man, when she bought I think
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah. Timing wise is a little off. You're right.
Yeah. So maybe that because one of the theories I had thought was maybe this is only the second place that he's been, or maybe the third. Who knows? But he hasn't spent his whole time here, perhaps.
Oh, okay.
So maybe he thinks this is a paradise. This is all right, better than the first place I was being held, because it's like it took him a while before he was, before they said that he was dead, that she could buy it.
Sure.
So.
Okay. There's more to the backstory, in other words. How
I
did he end
think
up
so.
here?
Yeah, I think so. I think perhaps it was another place that he was deciding to,
Also, an interesting point is when he mentions to the new clones, he says something like, "I'm your father, but I'm not the one who created you." He says something along those lines. In other words, I'm not responsible for the pool of fetuses.
Right. I think he said that. I didn't get that he was saying, "I'm your father."
Or whatever. He phrased it some way in which he said, "Hey, I'm your master," or something like
Yes,
that.
yes.
But I'm not your creator.
Right.
Again, the legacy idea.
Yes.
But in other words, so he didn't set that up.
Right. Right.
He's using what's
Right.
available to him.
Yeah, I initially thought that it was something that Dr. Manhattan had created, but
Right.
it could be wrong. Maybe it was this woman
Yeah.
who did that.
Now that we've seen, she almost seems to have limitless abilities as well. But anyway, we're not sure what she's trying to do here.
No, we're not.
I had this weird thought of maybe. I still keep the thing that I keep going back to with Ozymandias is doing this play showing the origin of Dr. Manhattan.
Yes.
I can't get over that
Yeah,
somehow.
yeah, that's odd.
But I'm wondering if maybe the idea is that if they have these things that you could reproduce somebody's memories and create a clone of them.
Yeah.
Could they try to recreate Dr. Manhattan?
Huh.
You know what I mean? Like they don't need him. He's out there.
Well,
we'll create our own.
we know that there are other countries that are experimenting.
Right.
in
Russia
order to do it.
trying it.
But
that could not. I mean, then why wouldn't Lady True might be trying it too?
I guess.
I don't know. It's just
I feel like, who knows?
We'll make our own. Now, one thought about Lady True's motives, and you mentioned that maybe there's a kind of a sticking it back to the imperialists.
Right.
I mean, that could certainly be in her case with maybe she's put herself out as this trillionaire philanthropist, but really, she's harboring these deep-seated feelings of betrayal from Vietnam, and who won Vietnam?
Right.
The masked heroes.
Right.
And Dr. Manhattan.
Yes.
In particular.
Yeah.
And so maybe this is all a revenge plot.
Right.
That she's gonna, spring on people in some way, but
that's
create her own version and then use it to attack them.
Oh,
I don't know.
I would hope not. I hope there's something else in the plan rather than creating another.
I got you. I'm just saying it's out there.
I know. I'm just saying.
Something that was she also mentioned. Beyond mentions that the clock, the Millennium Clock, is like the first wonder of the New World.
Yeah.
And that the old wonders of the Old World, like the Colossus and such, were built not to last because they got hit by floods or earthquakes and stuff. Well, supposedly, Tulsa, Oklahoma, this is why they built it in Tulsa, is because it's so far from the sea and it's earthquake proof. And I'm like, is it though? I don't know. Okay, it's in Tornado Alley for one thing, probably, and I don't know. There's probably some fault lines over there. Anyway, I'm not sure that Tulsa scientifically is the perfect place to build a monument.
Right. But, yeah. Hopefully, she's got some anti-tornado technology.
Yeah.
They solved global warming.
I will say that it comes off, if you were to put Lady True into the big villain role, it comes off as a villain's lair.
Sure.
I mean, it's like, it's got villain's lair written all over it.
Does. Whoa, whoa, it does indeed.
Whoa. I recreated Vietnam right here. And this giant clock, which tells time, but I'm not going to say it mysteriously, so you don't know what that means.
It's like the tomb of Dracula. Like, I have to have the earth from Transylvania in my tomb.
Exactly. Subterranean lair with sharks with lasers. I think she's going to be our big bad. Plus, she is just creepy.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
the things she does, like when she's talking to her daughter there, when she's like casually talking about killing off this infant.
Yes.
She's creepy.
Yeah, she is.
I'll say this too, though. Something about Sister Night. It feels like a lot of people know who she is. Like, first of all, we know Blake. I was like, oh yeah, you're Angela. Then there's that meeting. It's a little weird again with the senator. She gets off the elevator. The senator's like, "Hey, Angela." Oh, should I not call you that here in front of everyone?
Yes.
He's got two guys. His bodyguards hear that.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
There's two people right there.
Yes.
That guy's also in on it. I mean, I've been saying it from the beginning, but he was way too casual about that moment, even when he's theoretically thanking her for saving his life, but he ends up like laughing and like, oh, yeah, well, I was like,
Yeah, she says, don't get kidnapped again or something.
Yeah, he's just really casual about this really somber thing.
Yeah,
where this,
yeah.
You know, her boss got blown up anyway.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong with him too. But anyway, so he knows. Then when she's talking to Lady True, and I think actually Lady True already knew this, but when they're talking about the car, because the reason they go to Lady True is they're like, oh, your little car carry mechanism.
Yes.
Probably is what carried off Will.
Yes.
And it did, because we know, because Will's there. But so she says, oh, the car, who did it belong to? And Sister Night, in her costume, says, mine,
yeah.
Which isn't Sister Knight's car. Sister Night drives a black car.
Yeah.
It's Angela who drives the little silver car.
Yeah.
So she's admitting it right out in front of Lady True.
Maybe she sold it. No.
Yeah, that's right. I put it on CarMax, and I don't know who bought it, but anyway. So anyway, it's just one of those things where it seems like her identity that she has gone to pretty great lengths to protect she's more and more people are knowing who she is. It's becoming less and less important for her to wear it, I guess. There's going to come a day when she's like, I hell with this. Fine. I'm Angela, yay!
I don't think we've seen anybody who hasn't been in some authority know who she is.
All right.
That's my personal opinion on it. The people that in our authority should know who she is.
Okay.
So
fair enough. Accountability versus protection.
Right.
Issues
Yeah. So like when Laurie first meets with Looking Glass, he had to stall, but okay, this is
right when she says his name and everything's like fine. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where if enough people know the secret, it's not a secret anymore.
No, true.
But yeah, no, I hear you. Anyway, there you go. Any final thoughts on this episode?
No, but I liked it. It was good.
Yeah, I did too.
I like where it's going.
I am intrigued and I'm on board.
Yes.
So we'll be back talking about that. We're going to be talking about Mandalorian.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about Mr. Robot.
Yes, Mr. Robot.
So come on back for those.
That's right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.